Hi, this is Dr. Fab Mancini, and thank you so much for joining us once again to the FCA Empower Half Hour webinar. Listen, the FCA understands that many of us are pretty distracted right now in practice. Healthcare is changing, the chiropractic profession has changed tremendously, and we still have a public that doesn't really understand the true value of what the paradigm that we promote, the value of the chiropractic adjustment, the value of a healthy nervous system. So from time to time, this webinars is supposed to be to get you energized, to get you excited, and in only 30 minutes, you can get reconnected with your passion, reconnected with your purpose, and remind yourself once again that what we do every single day really matters, especially in today's time where people are really struggling and they're looking for answers everywhere. Well, today I have an opportunity to actually interview one of my best friends in the world, one of my favorite people in the world, because, this is a man that truly lives his message. I've met a lot of people in chiropractic, but this is one person since the first day I met him, I had an instant connection because I felt his heart, his passion, his conviction, not only for the chiropractic profession, but for you, for me as a chiropractor, because he sees the potential that we have, and he's really have been dedicating his whole life to truly bring this message to not only the chiropractic profession, but to people all over the world. So Patrick Gentempo, it's so great to see you once again.
Great to be with you, Fab. And always, it's like a vacation when I get to hang out with you, even if it's virtually this way. We've known each other a long time. I admire you and the work you're doing, and appreciate the fact that you're taking chiropractic to the masses in a very unique way outside of what most people are doing, going to the public with a message in the way that you're doing it. So congratulations on your courage in doing that, and I look forward to having this interaction.
Well, Patrick, I know that you're a household name in the chiropractic profession. You have contributed to so much of this profession in so many different ways, from ways to marketing your practice to technology that can actually measure function rather than the static x-rays that we all have been accustomed to now bringing new companies into this profession to really take us to a whole new level, not only understanding the importance of being free from third-party reimbursement, but also understanding the importance of philosophy, not only in our personal lives, but also in our professional lives. But maybe some people out there don't know your story, Patrick, as far as how you got started into chiropractic. I've known you for many years and I know you very well, but would you share with us a little bit about, what was the early beginnings, the humble beginnings for Patrick Gentempo, as to what got you into this profession and why? Why are you so passionate after so many years? You still have this passion every single time that I talk to you, every single time that I see you, when I hear you speak on stage. You still inspire not only me, but so many others out there. So what got you started into this whole journey we call chiropractic?
Well, I'll tell you, and I want to make one mention before I get into my backstory, that I was reflecting upon this the other day. I'm over 30 years in chiropractic now. And my energy levels, I was reflecting upon, I said, I have more energy, now around my passion and mission and purpose than I did, 20 years ago. And I feel like I'm just getting started in many ways. I feel like I've spent the last 30 years organizing all my thinking in a way that becomes leverageable to do something meaningful in the world. So it's kind of interesting how blessed I feel to be a chiropractor because of the longevity. I'm trying to think any other type of career after 30 years, people are really kind of like turning the corner to get retired and be done. And what's a blessing about chiropractic is the fact that after 30 years of practicing it, or whatever role you're playing in it, you just gain more mastery, and you can have more passion, you can make more money, and you can have more longevity, meaning going more decades into the future, not thinking about, how do I stop doing this, but now how can I expand on what I'm doing? And it's really kind of, for somebody who's maybe newer in practice, it might be hard to relate to that. But for people who have been on purpose in their practice and who have been congruent with the way that they go into the marketplace, I think they understand what I'm talking about. The concern I have is just, and we'll talk about this probably later in the program, the concern I have, though, is people who have conflict and they're wondering, Obamacare disruptions coming in 2017, what's this going to mean to me, confusion, et cetera. They would like to find a way to retire and can't. I will tell you that if you get on purpose in the proper way and you start focusing on adding value to people's lives in a unique way you could do it, that you'll never consider retirement. You'll just want to keep going even after you don't need to from a monetary standpoint. So now let's turn the clock all the way back. I grew up very interested in I guess what I call healthcare or medicine at that point in my younger life. I used to be very interested. I used to have my parents buy me anatomy books, and how they were called How and Why books on X, which would be anatomy of the shoulder, anatomy of the muscles, whatever it might be. And then I remember at a young age listening to the news reports of Dr. Christian Bernard, the first heart transplant, and I was like, it was so romanticized in my own imagination. And I thought I wanted to be a heart surgeon, as if you'd asked me what I wanted to be growing up. Then I got into high school. I was a competitive athlete. I was a 2-time national karate champion. I had, and my senior year of high school, I wrestled, but I had a couple injuries along the way. But at one point I had an injury in my neck that I went to the medical doctor. So this is a very typical chiropractic story, right? Go to the medical doctor. I was like, I had pain and stiffness and spasms, etc. So I went to the medical doctor. He said, "Oh, well, for the pain, we'll give you a painkiller. For the muscle spasms, we'll give you a muscle relaxer. For the inflammation, we give you an anti-inflammatory." So here I am, this kid in my mid-teens, getting a handful of drugs. Go home to take those, and it made sense, saying, "Oh, we've identified these symptoms. Let's give you these drugs to counteract the symptoms." Fortunately, and I say fortunately for me, the drugs didn't work. And I was suffering 2 weeks later. As a matter of fact, the drugs made me sort of sick. So my mother, who's got enormous wisdom, said, we need to do something different. Took me to a chiropractor. Now at that time, I didn't know there was a difference between chiropractic medicine, all those things that go on. I was going to a doctor who specialized in my spine. She brings me in, and I get my first adjustment, and I'm 90% better. And I get up off the table like, why didn't the last doctor do this to me? I can't believe how much better I feel right now. And he started to explain it to me. So on subsequent visits, as I was going back, I remember one time the guy I was seeing, the practice I was going to saw 150 visits a day. And I was seeing the associate doctor who was 1 year out of Palmer. And when one day, fortunately, he was an associate, so he was brown bagging his lunch. He wasn't going out for fancy meals. And I would always ask questions and quiz the kid. And I remember he said, why don't you sit down with me? I'll explain this whole thing to you over lunch. And because I was getting pieces. And he's eating his lunch and he's explaining chiropractic to me. And I'll never forget, I left that office, and it was a home office that was kind of like appended to the house. And there was a little walkway, and I can still, in my mind's eye, all these years later, 40 plus years later, I can picture walking down that pathway saying, I'm going to be a chiropractor. And I literally walked out with it on an entirely different path than I walked in. So when you hear me lecture, you hear me talk about pivotal experiences versus the jacuzzi experience. That only took 45 minutes, a pivotal experience. And there's a little bit of an epilogue to the story I think it's worth sharing. I had, this chiropractor ended up eventually going out on his own, et cetera. His son became a chiropractor. So fast forward many years later, I have built CLA. You've been to our offices in Mahwah, New Jersey. I sold CLA 5 years ago, but this was probably about 10 years ago or 8 years ago. We had a fairly large impact, 9,000 chiropractic clients on 6 continents, all the training we did, all the technology, et cetera, staff of 55 employees. And I remember that this guy, I recognized the last name, and it was his son that was buying technology from us. So I actually got on the phone and called the kid up, and I said, hey, is your dad still practicing? He said, yeah, he's still practicing right here in New Jersey. So I said, give me his contact information. So of course he didn't remember me, right? This is a lot of years ago. He didn't remember that I came in. He didn't remember that he told me about chiropractic, and he's the reason I became a chiropractor and all that kind of stuff. And so I talked to him on the phone, and he said, I've heard of you. I know you are. I didn't realize you were a patient in my office, but it was a long time ago, and I was an associate doctor at the time. And I said, well, you're in New Jersey still. Please come up. Let me come visit me. Let me buy you lunch, et cetera. And I'll never forget, that we were walking through our office, and he walks in, he's looking around, he sees the scale of the operation, he's looking at the things on the walls, he's recognizing kind of the scale of what we do, and of course he'd heard of us, and I looked at him in the eyes, and we're both here because I said to him, I just want you to understand that because you took the time many, many years ago to speak to a young kid who maybe wasn't sure what he was going to do with his life, this is the result of that conversation. And I want to say, it's hard for me not to tear up now. I want to just say thank you for having that conversation with me, because it's made not only a difference in my life, and it's been a blessing, but we've touched people around the world, millions of people around the world through the work that we've done. And I'll never forget, he was dripping in tears, and it was, I think it was just one of those great moments where I got to share gratitude, for what seemed like a small gesture long ago. And I say this, I think in part because every single one of you, if we take a moment now and reconnect to our humanity and not worry about the details of the things that are, that are the struggles that we have in our life. I say this because right now, every single one of you are missing conversations you could be having that could be transformative for the world, transformative. You don't know how it might lead. So I'm going to say that if you do nothing else after you listen to this particular interaction, that just pay attention and just see where you might have the opportunity to say something, have a conversation, be a mentor. You might be thinking right now, but I'm struggling, how can I be a mentor when this guy was an associate doctor taking sandwiches to his office because he couldn't afford, anything more than that. But yet he had the richness of a spirit around what he did enough to share it with somebody who was interested. I think you could do the same thing too. So anyway, that's my story, Fab, and it has this epilogue to it that is one of the high points of my life, being able to reconnect with the person who got me into chiropractic.
Well, it's so beautiful to always experience for you how humble you are, but also how appreciative you are for the people that have contributed in your journey. I mean, I've met many of your mentors, and I've seen your relationships with them. But Patrick, let's get really to the nitty gritty here. I want to really ask you, what is the one or two thing that you feel that since you've entered this profession is the greatest value that chiropractic has to offer society? Because I find that unfortunately, I was president of Parker for many years, many times in our schools, because of many reasons, national boards and many other things, we end up spending 3.5 years of a lot of information, but sometimes we miss out on the simplicity of the value that this profession really brings to society, to individuals, and not only to individuals, but to everyone they come in contact with, everyone they impact because of their relationships with them. So what is it, in your opinion, the one or two things that you feel that today, especially today, when we have a world that is really struggling with their healthcare problems, chronic illnesses is at a nice skyrocket high numbers. Nothing seems to be reversing that, especially in the traditional healthcare system. We're seeing that more and more the healthcare system is broken, not only in the United States, but all over the world. And people just don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. So in your opinion, what has kept you so passionate all these years? Because it's obvious that you've seen a value that most of us unfortunately have not reached yet or have not captured yet. What is that for you? Because I'm really curious, especially for those out there that have never really experienced you before. What is that for you?
This is probably one of the most important questions, that could be asked, of a chiropractor, because it really goes to the heart of, the why behind what we do, right? And my answer might be different than other people's answers, and that's okay. But as you said, it's kind of like, what drives you? What do you see? What's here? What I could tell you is this: chiropractic, in its message, which translates into a vision of what's possible for humanity, is totally unique. And this is the thing that I don't think people get. Too many chiropractors and so-called chiropractic leaders are trying to push chiropractic toward a sameness in the healthcare systems, if you will. Many chiropractors want to get pharmaceuticals rights. They want to be able to prescribe medications and thinking that that will add to credibility and that's a contribution that chiropractic could make. The implication would have to be to justify the morality of it. Well, drugs are underutilized in the culture, and as a result, there's not enough distribution of drugs to the citizens of our culture. Therefore, chiropractors need to fill that void. Well, of course, that's a ridiculous thing. Drugs are way overprescribed. There's no shortage of drug usage out there. So so then why would we want to involve ourselves in such a thing? It's basically it implies that we want to be like what healthcare is now in the mainstream sense, and that would also further imply that you don't understand how unique chiropractic is and the absolute pure power of chiropractic to transform lives. So what makes us different? Understand that the adjustment as a service, and I'm distinguishing an adjustment from a manipulation, and I'm not saying good, bad. I'm not saying people who prescribe drugs are bad people or that they're unnecessary. I'm not saying that people who do manipulations are bad and they're unnecessary or that it's inappropriate. I'm just saying there's something that makes us special and unique. Many chiropractors are not practicing that way, but what makes us special and unique is this thing called the adjustment. And that the intention behind the adjustment is based on principles of health and life expression that have transformative effects on human beings. And the implications from a socioeconomic level are that if people adopted the principles of chiropractic, the innate philosophy, if you will, and I'm not talking about a religion here, I'm not talking about mysticism. I am not a mystic. My philosophy is objectivism. I live and breathe objectivism as a philosophy, but I'm talking about rational truths that when they're leveraged into the practice of chiropractic, that the impact of the adjustment to help to release unexpressed health potential, and then have somebody also aligned with the understanding of the role of stress in all this, physical, biochemical, and psychological, and how when you have stresses, negative stresses in those areas, the negative impact on the body, which sets up this whole cycle of subluxation and downward health trajectory, that to intervene in that process, apply a constructive adjustment for the correction of the subluxation so the body can express, and you turn that whole cycle around to an upward expression of health and life and life, then you start to see that if people would engage in this, and it's not my opinion, if you look at the research and the data, the impact not only on their health for every individual, which can be miraculous, and you and I have both seen miraculous things happen from the adjustment. I believe that we underestimate the adjustment in the field now. And that you can't overestimate it. But with that, and then if you would understand also then what the economics of that are as far as how people live and the decrease in disease treatment services, emergency care services, etc., we can absolutely transform the economics of the nation in the United States, or the world, if you will, carry it out that far. We can absolutely transform the health of the individuals in our communities that we see. So what is required is a chiropractor who understands that and has a vision and motivation to go into the community and make that happen. And when you have that, you have successful practices that don't rely on third party. They're having massive impact, that have somebody show up who are inspired every day in that office. They attract a staff of people who also align with that vision. And you're changing lives every single day in ridiculously exciting ways that create a career that's different than walking around all day, pushing meat, manipulating joints. Does your neck feel a little bit better now, Mrs. Jones? Is that low back? Oh, it's still bothering you? Geez, I'm sorry. Maybe the adjustments aren't working the way they should. That's the mentality. So I look at this, it's like a tale of two cities, right? A tale of two professions. One part of our profession gets up every day and shows up in the doldrums of manipulation for amelioration of symptoms, limited and restricted by a third-party coverage, and then hoping that they can maybe alleviate some people's pain, which I'm not saying is necessarily a bad thing, but that's the practice of manual medicine and physical therapy. But it gets to be kind of fatiguing after a while. The other shows up and says, my goodness, People are over-medicated, over-drugged, they're misinformed, they have their health philosophy they're getting from drug commercials. And what I do every day is I'm an answer to that problem. And right now there's war, there's terrorism, there's contentious election cycles going on. I see people overstressed. Now they have two options. One option is they're going to go to the medic, and what are they going to do? They're going to get mood elevators. They're going to get sleeping medication so they can sleep at night. They're going to get so the psychotropic and psychoactive drugs in psychiatric medicine that are usually prescribed by GPs and others. Doesn't have to be a psychiatrist. But the bottom line is they're going to numb them to their life. The drugs are going to have adverse effects, especially using them over the long term. They're going to not be able to sleep. They're taking sleeping pills they get addicted to, so that they because they can't stop taking them, then they can't sleep again. That's one path that everybody in your community is looking toward right now because of the stress they feel with what's going on in the world. The other path is that they find you, that you don't put them to sleep and numb them, but you release them with the adjustments so that they can properly process their stress, experience their life, not get addicted to medications, and have a full and rich life that makes them a better parent, a better worker, a better spouse, and everything else. And this isn't just something that exists in my fanatical mind. This is something that I see practiced every single day. So you're listening to this right now. The choice is yours. What role do you want to play in life? Do you just want to fit in and kind of do your little bit in a paradigm that is not really working very well? Or do you want to be a solution that's totally unique, that doesn't care if insurance pays or not, and that you can change people's lives just with your hands by turning them on through the power of the chiropractic adjustment? So that's the way I see it.
It's so great to see you so passionate. I mean, it's amazing, right? I mean, every year we get more passionate than the year before. And even though, I'm going almost on 30 years too, the same as you. But let me ask you this question, Patrick, because I think it's very important. In your opinion, for the last 30 years, you've been leading in this profession. There was a time in which I know you were very concerned because we weren't properly documenting the significance of a healthy nervous system. You came up with technology that was revolutionizing in those days. Over 9,000 doctors of chiropractic all over the world bought the technology, was able to use it not only as a way of educating their patient, but measuring the changes that were happening after the chiropractic adjustment. And then you've gone through your own evolution of it educating us, and especially in our mindset, so we can understand what this is all about. But in your opinion, Patrick, what is the one obstacle, the one challenge that you feel is holding most of us back? What do you feel, and what's the possible solution for that? Because, chiropractic has been evolving over the years, but in your opinion, you got thousands of people following you. You're out there lecturing in the biggest scenarios in chiropractic. What is it that you're hearing, and what is it that is a message that you have for us in order to recognize, number one, what that possible challenge may be, and how can we overcome it? How can we surpass it? Because we need help right now.
So I'd like to also give credit where credit's due. With the technology that we developed, I co-developed that with Dr. Christopher Kent, who to me is a giant in the profession. And so I'll just do the shout out and say that I didn't get that done by myself. I got it done with somebody who was an intellectually superior chiropractor, and somebody who's a great resource for this profession. So what do I see as the biggest problem? It sounds trite because all the personal development people are going to tell you this, but maybe they're all right. It starts in here. The biggest challenge isn't outside of us. The biggest challenge isn't, we're oppressed by organized medicine. Are we? Yes. We're oppressed by the insurance industry, the third-party pay industry, the pharmaceuticals. Is it true? Yes. However, ultimately, it's what's here and what's here. Meaning, if you can organize your thinking to see congruently and clearly the principles of chiropractic, how they line up, what role you play, and go out after it, then you can transform. And I am telling you, I just looked at one thing I do to clean this all up is a program called Philosophy Formula, and I just got testimonials not long ago After 35 years of practice, I finally understand what it means to be a chiropractor. And for the first time, rather than struggling, I'm seeing my practice grow. I'm having more fun when I go to the office, etc. I hope I can practice another 35 years. And I wish I could say that that's unusual. So where are we failing? Where's the contradiction of subluxation? It's starting, with no offense to any of the schools, but starting at the school level, meaning that we got a mix of instructors in the schools that are confusing students that are coming out wondering, well, what is actually the truth? And it's not necessarily even the leadership of the school's fault, because they have to comply with the CCE. You see, pre-CCE in this profession, the schools were, all the courses at the schools were taught by chiropractors. The basic sciences were taught by chiropractors. So there was a congruency, there was an alignment of thinking. When you're learning microbiology, you're understanding how microbes also have innate intelligence, just like human beings and other biological things. And as you're learning about disease processes and everything else, you're learning it through a context that is a chiropractic context in the chiropractic paradigm. Now you're getting some sort of chiropractic stuff. You're getting PhDs who show up and say, well, that subluxation thing is unproven. So kids get out of school, they have a mountain of debt, and then they're expected to try to figure it out on their own. And with all this debt on top of them, and the system is sort of rigged in a certain way around what healthcare providers get favored status in the system. It's certainly not chiropractors. So with all those things coming together, that's the blockage that we have. But the good news is that if you can get your thinking assembled in a certain way, I don't care if you're an amiable, you're an analytical, you're an expressive or a driver. The personality style doesn't matter. Introvert, extrovert, I know one of the most painfully introverted people I know runs a $4.5 million all cash practice, that focuses on spinal correction. And he's so painfully introverted, like, it's hard to be around him sometimes. So the point is, it's not a personality. You'd say, because incidentally, my bias is towards introversion. I'm not a natural extrovert. I get extrovert when I'm talking about things I'm passionate about, like right now. But your personality style has nothing to do with it. It has to do with your clarity of thinking and your purpose. And every chiropractor has the ability to clarify the thinking. How much time do you spend on it is the question. So I think there's huge opportunity for chiropractic right now. I see a major disruption coming in 2017. Obamacare, the risk corridors and the reinsurance to the tune of tens of billions of dollars sunsets on December 31st of 2016. And then, who knows who's going to be president? Who knows what the composition of Congress is going to be? But what I can tell you, there's going to be a serious disruption. I don't know what the fallout's going to be of it, but I can tell you there's a serious disruption coming. And if you don't have your thinking together, if you don't have a purpose that exists independent of insurance policies, then you might have a big problem next year. So the solution to the issue is chiropractors getting their thinking organized, understand who they are, what they do, and why they do it, showing up in that marketplace, delivering service on a very, very high level with passion and integrity every single day, and then you've got a career in front of you. And you might think, if you're listening to this, it's too late for you. I'm telling you it's not. You might think that, well, I'm new and I don't understand enough and I have a lot of debt. Those things are details. They do not dictate your outcomes. You can make a decision right now that tomorrow your new level of success starts. And it starts with your attitude before anything else happens. I can teach 10 different chiropractors the exact same thing. They're going to get 10 different results. Why? Because it's not a procedure that gets the result. It's who you are doing the procedure that gets the result. So it's who before the do. And if you get your who right, everything else follows.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because you've always taught me the importance of being congruent with, your values, but also your action steps. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I find is that as we enter chiropractic, we get so excited because our values seem to be very much aligned with why we chose chiropractic in the first place. But as we exit the chiropractic colleges, as we get into practice, depending on your experience as an associate or as a young doctor in practice, that can alter pretty much also the way that you think about what chiropractic is or not. But what I always found is that chiropractic really has never changed. We're the ones that change. Mm-hmm. And when we rediscover ourselves within the same values that got us into this profession in the first place, then there's nothing stopping us. To me, I still remember the values that my chiropractor taught me when I first went to my first chiropractic visit. And that was three things. The first one is a reminder that the body was designed to heal itself and that we needed to celebrate that every single day. Number two, that the nervous system was the master system, controls and regulates every system in the body. That as long as we kept our nervous system functioning as healthy as possible, we had a greater ability to heal that body and to stay well. And the last one, that there was a universal intelligence that lived within ourselves, and it's innate intelligence. And that innate intelligence is always working. Even when we're not working, it's always working. And we needed to be able to understand that and be able to harness that throughout our lives. And we do that through the chiropractic adjustment. You know, Patrick, I'm so inspired by you. I'm so excited. I'm so excited that you're speaking at the FCA regional and national conventions, you know. And look, if you're inspired right now by Dr. Gentempo, I just want to make sure that you sign up right now for the next seminar coming up by FCA. They have 5 programs a year, the regional, the national. Look, if you haven't been to the national lately, last year they had over 3,200 chiropractors. I know this year is probably going to be even more. You got to come. You got to come and experience the profession and the leadership of the profession and the amazing speakers and all the vendors that are there and the spirit that lives there, because you know what? We need to get together. We need to celebrate one another. And Patrick, I personally want to say I love you. I respect you. I admire you. I'm so excited that we have had this amazing friendship for all these years. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what you do for chiropractic, for all of us chiropractors that you have inspired over the last 30 years. And I'm so excited that you continue to live your message every single day. I get so inspired by you, because every time I talk to you, it's obvious that is something that you have never strayed away from. And that is maintaining that congruency between your values and what it is that you do every single day. So thank you so much. For those of you listening, I see you at the next FCA seminar, and make sure that you register right now for the next one. All right. See you in the next webinar. Bye-bye. Thank you, Patrick.
Love you. Thank you. Bye-bye.